Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast, a special bonus edition, as me and Dan are going to reactions to this NFL Sunday, disappointing Sunday. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, alongside my co-host, Daniel Bobo Kurlan. How you doing today, buddy?
Nearly wanted to throw shit at the TV today. That was just pathetic. I cannot express how pathetic that outcome of the game was. I mean, and then also I gotta say they can't change the surface of the turf at MetLife Stadium soon enough.
Yeah, you got that right. That's supposedly happening at some point in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, you're right. Just a disappointing day from both sides in New York as the Giants fall to the Detroit Lions, a game that, a lot of people just kind of considered a slam dunk. The Giants were going to win, but hey, you got to tip your cap to the Lions. The Lions came out flying and got the job done today. And on the other side, the Jets end up, the defense had an incredible day. They played about as well as you would ever want your defense to play. And they go out and blow the game because the offense can't do anything and lose 10-3 on a punt return with 5 seconds left in the game. What just a insane turn of events. The Jets go from winning that game and being in first place to now losing that game, and they're in last place now. So strange turn of events, Dan. What are your reactions to the Giants right off the bat? I know it's a disappointing day. I believe what the final ended up being, 31-18, something like that.
I just felt the offense didn't really have any juice today. I mean, it's like if we're gonna Saquon Barkley seemed human today, and
Yeah,
and then this long, and on top of that, a couple more receivers injured.
who went down today?
Damn, I forgot how to pronounce the guy's name. I've just lost track of so many guys keep getting injured this year.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's true. So the Giants are down a couple of guys now, and it's that's a tough loss to take, especially at home. You're really hoping the Giants could come out and win that game. But yeah, I mean, especially early on, this Lions defense played really, really well. They had a couple of interceptions, which has not been Daniel Jones' problem. Daniel Jones' problem, if anything, he really hasn't had any problems this year. But coming into this year, he was known as a guy that was fumble prone, cleaned it up this year, and he actually had the longest active streak in the NFL for not throwing an interception. Obviously, that was snapped today, 2 interceptions, one by the rookie Aiden Hutchinson and the other by one of their defensive backs. And boy, that guy Hutchinson is quite the difference maker for that Lions defense. I'm surprised the Lions defense has struggled as much as it has this year because they look like they have a few playmakers on that team, right?
Yeah, they look good. I mean, it's just surprising. I felt I was just the team on the Lions. I will stomp over them, then just get ready for Thanksgiving. But now it's going to be a little bit nervous going into Thanksgiving game on Sunday. I just hope I'm not throwing food at the TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you have to do now. You have to turn the page, and it's going to be big time, TV on Thanksgiving afternoon with the Giants and the Cowboys at 4 p.m. That's going to be really, really a fun game to watch. Such a meaningful game in the standings as the all the NFC East teams just keep stacking the wins. The Giants, unfortunately, couldn't get that job done today, but they're definitely in prime position heading into this Thanksgiving weekend. And you know, as for the Giants today, what did you think? Do you think, like you said, Saquon Barkley looked human today? I know early on, he didn't even on his first 10 carries, he didn't even get 20 yards. So whatever that Detroit defensive line was doing was working against Saquon and this Giant offensive line, which has been pretty good this year for the most part. Um, you know, what do you think the problem was? Do you think that the Lions just had a really good day, or do you think maybe Saquon's starting to get gassed a little bit as he really hasn't had this kind of workload in the last couple of years?
It might have been a little bit of both. He may have looked a bit gassed, and also the team. Detroit was playing. It was a lot better team than what we expected going into this game. And unfortunately, some of these players that were injured that normally would have a bit more time to maybe be ready for Sunday might be a big question mark going into Thursday, being a short turnaround.
That's very true. That's very true. It's going to be very interesting to see how things break out. When we're talking and doing the show on Wednesday night, recording it for our regular Thursday show, it's going to be very interesting what we're talking about in relation to who's practicing for the Giants, because that's going to be a big indication of who's playing on Thursday. And it's at this point in the year for the NFL, we know it. It's not only about getting the most out of your talent; it's keeping your talent healthy. And the Giants are, going to have to do what they can, patch these things together, and especially make sure that Saquon, is in one piece too, which they've been doing a good job this year. And Daniel Jones had a tough day today that contributed to the Giants losing this game. But hey, Giants are 7-3. If it looks tough right now, it's a very tough loss for the Giants and Giant fans. But if they go out and beat Dallas this Thursday, that all goes away, right?
Yep, exactly. The way and I, the pro our whole season could rest on what happens Thursday.
No doubt about it. Because hey, I mean, but look, the fact of the matter is, the Jets head coach Robert Saleh said something very interesting uh, before the game today. Before the Jets played the Patriots, he went out and said, "No matter what happens today, win or lose, we still have 7 games left after this." And he's 100% right. And it's the same thing for the Giants. It sucks. It really, really sucks when your team loses like both of ours did today. But the fact of the matter is, they still have plenty of time left to figure this thing out and get their their act together. You can't sit here and dwell on the loss. It's tough to win in the NFL. We know this. We've seen this over the last couple of years with our teams not even winning half of the amount of games that we've won this year, right? But
Yeah.
hey, this is what happens when you're in the NFL. You play tough games. Sometimes you lose.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes you lose tough games.
Mm-hmm.
It's still interesting. The next 3 weeks or so are going to be really going to define our season, where we end up.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it, man. There's a lot to be determined for both the Jets and the Giants. The Giants are 7-3. The Jets are 6-4. Right now, the Giants still have 2 games left against the Commanders. They have 2 games left against the Eagles. They have tough game, against the Vikings. I know that's going to be tough, but they also have the big game against Dallas, their final game against Dallas on Thursday. So everything is still out in front of the Giants. And hey, guess what? Right now, through 10 games, the Eagles are 9-1. The Giants are 7-3. Most years, if the Eagles were 9-1, the Giants wouldn't be anywhere near them. Now, you haven't even played them yet, and you're only back 2 games, and they're 9-1. If the Giants go out and beat the Eagles both games, doesn't even matter. Then you got the tiebreaker, and and the Giants are in business. You can win the division, right?
Yeah, believe me, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for those games, and hopefully we. Oh, believe me, it's extra celebratory when we beat the Eagles. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know,
Oh,
it's a yeah.
also, I noticed a little side note. Supposedly Odell Beckham Jr. could end up being signing with either the Giants or the Cowboys for the rest of the season. And I made a sarcastic joke to one of my to on a Facebook page saying that yeah, it's probably going to be this Thursday's game is going to be yeah, Odell just signed with whoever wins Thursday's game.
It's the Odell Bowl.
Yeah,
You know? So yeah, I agree with you though. I think from everything I've heard as well that Odell Beckham is deciding between, who to join between the Giants or the Cowboys. It'd be very weird either way. It'd be very weird to see him back in a Giant uniform, and it would also be very weird to see him in a Cowboy uniform. So very interesting things going on there. But the Giants have everything in front of them right now. Tough loss today to Detroit, who, you never know what you're getting out of the Lions. The Lions could either look like the worst team in football, or they just don't go down. They're like Rocky. Doesn't matter how much you beat them up, they just keep coming back. So I mean, it's a credit to that team over there and Jared Goff and they pulled it off. I didn't think they were going to beat the Giants. I definitely would have picked the Giants going into that game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. And it's the same thing with the Jets, where I mean, they lose that game 10-3 up in New England, their 14th straight loss to New England. Zach Wilson doesn't turn the ball over, but they didn't really take any chances. He was 9 of 22 for 77 yards. Dan, what did you think when did you check in this game at all? And were you blown away by the lack of offense?
I was after the Giants game. I made a quick supermarket run. Had to pick up some stuff at the supermarket. Short walk from my house. But after I got back from the supermarket, I was taking a little bit. I was taking a little bit of a look on the SNY the Twitter page to see what was mentioned on their Twitter feed. Keep track of stuff. Also, maybe some stuff maybe that may have been breaking post game and maybe some Mets free agent news, which is a lot. I do a lot during the off season. I probably hit the refresh button a lot during the off season for all that
Of
news.
course.
Well, maybe how like what are my Jet fan friends are going to be going to, because I know how they can be after games, and it from what I read, it must have been like that whole Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, because every Jets fan I know that have seen that episode told me that they described that episode as like what it's like for them being a fan of that team. They say Larry David got it. They got it right what they go through.
Man,
And
I mean, they just looked the defense today against New England was incredible. It was one of the best defensive performances I've seen a Jet defense given so long. And uh to not be, rewarded by the offense at all. And then for Zach Wilson after the game too, the media asked him, do you know, feel like you let your defense down? And he said no. And it's like, Zach, you might think that, but I'm sorry. I like the kid. You let the defense down today. You specifically, there were so many missed passes, overthrows, underthrows, taking sacks when he should have either ran out of the pocket or just thrown the ball away. There were just so many bad decisions by Zach Wilson today. I was just shocked that he didn't take more responsibility for it after. It was a little disappointing in the kid, honestly. But I just got to give all the credit in the world to the defense. They sacked the Patriots 6 times today. That's the most the Patriots have been sacked, for the whole year. The Jets sacked them 6 times the last game. So that's 12 sacks in the 2 games. That's the most the Patriots have been sacked in a season by one team since 2001. The Bills also did it 12 times that year. So very, just such a great performance by the defense, just not rewarded. And they get honestly, if at the end of the year, the 7 points that were given up by the punt return gets tacked onto the defense, even though those big guys that were doing the heavy lifting weren't even on the field for that. So that's also another insult to injury on that. And just another tough loss. Jets go 0-2 against the Patriots now, 14 straight losses, like I said. And now, hey, you got to turn the page, just like I said with the Giants. You got to turn the page now and go out and beat the Chicago Bears, who's the next in the Jets schedule at home. Chicago Bears next Sunday, win the game. I know the Bears have been better lately, even though I'm pretty sure they lost today. The Bears have been okay, but hey, what do you think, Dan? Going into that game, Jets Bears, who would you be picking in that game?
I think that game looks like it's very winnable for the Jets from what it looks like. I'm pretty sure. Of course, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm just gonna go with that pick.
What the you're gonna pick the Jets?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I hope so. I hope that's what the case is, because the thing that scared me coming into this Jets Patriots game this past weekend, or today, is that everybody was picking the Jets coming into this game. All the big names, all the big shows, they were saying, "Oh, it's the Jets' time. It's this and that," and that was making me really nervous. And of course, it resulted today in the Jets coughing one up in New England again. The last time the Jets won in New England was that wild card playoff game for the 2010 season in January of 2011. The last time the Jets won in New England in the regular season was in I believe it was week 11 in 2008 when Brett Favre was the quarterback, and the Patriots quarterback was Matt Castle. It wasn't even Tom Brady. So this is how long it's been since the Jets have beat the Patriots in New England.
Yep, exactly. I forgot. I remember that Jets game, that playoff game you're talking about. I was in Atlantic City. I went to see the Antisocial Network tour, which was Jim Norton, Bill Burr, Dave Attell, and Jim Brewer. Great lineup for a comedy show, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and before that, there was like the bar area. There's a lot of people watching the game at the Borgata, some bars somewhere in the Borgata. And when in I'm in the audience, I'm hearing people cheering. I hear every Jets fan. They were cheering because of the score. And I think Bill Burr was maybe a little bit, well, I could tell Bill Burr was a Patriots fan, so I'm sure he was.
Of course.
I said I'm eager to see how Bill reacts to this to that. I'm just neutral. I don't really have any horse in this race, so I'm just thinking, how's Bill Burr going to react to this one? Depending, because by the time the game ends, he'll be in the middle of the show or something, or he might take the stage. And he
Uh-huh.
was. I remember him joking, like, said, "Oh, I probably lose, blow a lead in the AFC Championship game again," or something. He said.
And unfortunately, they did in typical Jets fashion.
But yeah, that I remember where I was when that game's happened. So I saw everyone in that bar, everyone that was a Jets fan, they were on the highs of highs that time. And I remember seeing all over social media, anyone I know that was a Jets fan that was like on the lows of lows.
Yeah, well, hey, that Jet win in New England in against the Patriots in the playoffs, that is one of my high points as a Jets fan for my entire life. So, until the Jets win a Super Bowl, that'll be up there. Unfortunately, I've seen them in 3 AFC Championship games. They've lost all 3 of them. So maybe even if the Jets, win one of those games, that'll surpass that Patriots moment. But unfortunately, until now, that's the highest of highs. But speaking of the highest of highs, it'd be pretty up there for us Met fans right now as we move on from football in this bonus episode of the Best Seat in the House podcast. Thank you for checking it out, by the way. Um, you know, right now, I saw you retweet about it earlier today too, that there are a lot of reports going out there right now that the Mets have made an offer to deGrom, somewhere in the range of 46 to 50 million for 3 or 4 years, and it looks like that his preference is to come back to the Mets. So, what do you think, Dan? Are you
Well,
believing these reports? Are you
well,
confident?
that specific Twitter account I kind of take with a grain of salt because I don't know how really accurate. They might be maybe one notch above Bob Nightingale, which, by the way, all Bob Nightingale might as well be the might as well be the biggest scammer of all with the because trust me, I remember we did dodge a bullet on Trevor Bauer, but I remember he was saying at the time it was when a lot of Met fans were hoping to sign him before we all realized how it did work out for the Dodgers. It didn't go well for them with Bauer, but we thought, oh, this is a done deal. But
It's true. Bob Nightingale did blow it. And that's why Tomas Nito has poked fun at him on Twitter ever since then.
yeah, but we dodged a bullet big time there on that one.
You're definitely right about that. But
Yeah, you got,
and also they also mentioned today in a different article with Ken Rosenthal that the Mets have met with Jameson Taillon from the Yankees and Justin Verlander. I saw as well. What do you think about that?
well, I feel like they're. I don't know if they're going to sign any of those guys. I feel those guys might be just that's the plan B. I think both players are going to wait knowing it's a plan B. So everything's going to be dictated depending if we sign deGrom or not.
Well, from everything you've heard, are you confident that deGrom's coming back? Does any of these reports coming out recently? Because I also have seen like the New York Post actually reported on Saturday that if the Mets make any offer that's like close to another team's offer, that deGrom would be willing to take that because his preference is to stay in New York, which is a very encouraging thing to hear.
I feel it's a 50-50 chance right now. So
Wow.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I would it would be even shocker if this thing even drags onto the Queen's baseball convention that's happening in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure you
You know,
heard
I,
about.
I have heard the Queens Baseball Convention. Definitely check that out if you're a Mets fan or if you're a baseball fan. That's definitely a lot of fun. But Dan, I'm just gonna tell you because you said you're at 50. Normally, I'm the more pessimistic one. I'm gonna tell you right now. My feeling is that deGrom coming back is 80%, and let's hope he doesn't make me look like an asshole. But I I feel like 80%, and I wasn't that sure until the last couple of days. But I that's my feeling right now. So hey, hopefully deGrom proves me right.
Know that I haven't looked at the responses on every tweet from at Twitter. I remember a few years ago when everybody was hoping that the Mets were going to sign Bryce Harper during the offseason. Remember, all the response on Twitter was sign. Remember, they kept all the
Yeah,
tweets. And
announce Harper, announce Harper, announce Price. That's all you'd hear.
I could only imagine how crazy it would have been had Steve Cohen on the team back then. Man, he would have been tweeted like crazy about that one.
Oh, no
But
doubt about it. You got that right.
for all I know, if Steve Cohen on a team back then, maybe that offseason might have played out a little bit different. Had a head, but anyway, what happened was at that Queen. I remember a few weeks. I remember some point during that winter at the Queen's baseball convention. they're talking. They're when the people that's there is just got someone who's like in charge of social media account or something. The Mets, and I just asked them. I says, "Do you guys turn that into a drinking game? Like, how many times you see that response on the various social media accounts of every tweet posted by the Mets official social media account?" And the guy was kind of laughing, like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not the people that really make the decisions on for each side. We're just the ones that put up these tweets at the Mets. Pretty much, they said they pretty much put up the tweets that were asked to be posted by the account. You know what I mean, right?
Exactly.
Everything, all those tweets. But yeah, they were kind of laughing at that. I also thought I also thought it was neat that I met that, and who knew that Steve Gelbs was going to become such iconic that time when I talked to him for a little bit at the Queen's Baseball Convention.
How long ago was that?
I think this was 2018 or the winter or prior to the 2019 season. I
Well,
remember
okay, so he'd been on the job for a couple of years.
yeah, I also forget the date. I know it's in December. I haven't bought my tickets yet for the. I got to buy my tickets for the Queen's Baseball Convention. I just been waiting for the playoff payments to be put back into my account and stuff because those things took a while to show up in the account. You know how like the rounds that didn't happen.
Yeah,
The Mets
yeah.
didn't make those rounds. They were
That's a shame that they didn't
so I waited
refund
for
you
that.
quicker.
I heard they take a while because they got to do. But
Yeah,
but yeah, they
that's
got
disappointing though.
refunded. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I heard some got their refunds quicker, but I
mm.
I it was a week or it was 2 weeks ago that I got my refund.
Okay. Well, and also too, so we see that with the Mets, they're making all those moves. Is there any guy right now, before we finish up here, because this special bonus episode, we're just about running out of time. Just we're thinking, who would be your top target right now? Not counting deGrom. Um, who would be
Well,
your top target?
well, if I'm gonna go players aside from pitching, you definitely got to look at potentially Trey Turner.
That would be incredible if they could add Trey Turner to this team. Yeah, that would definitely boost this offense a lot. Trey Turner would be huge. Another guy who I would have my eye on is Carlos Rodon. The
Yeah, I feel the one he could like a back rotation starter. I feel like
well,
if he
if they brought him in, he would be their number 3 starter.
yeah. So I feel like that's gonna be that would be a big one, especially if complement the rotation with the Grom and Scherzer.
Yeah.
That
How do you
would
feel about the Japanese guy too?
I feel he's also maybe one that could be a number 3. I feel.
Yeah, I think his name is Senga.
Yeah, Singa. I forget. I was having a hard time pronouncing these names. But usually,
Mhm.
whenever we've signed that have the name, I by the time they're on the team, I've gotten used to the pronunciation of their name. But
Yeah, like Tsuyoshi Shinjo and Hideo Nomo was on the Mets and Kaz Sasaki, Matsui.
it took yes, I remember took a little bit during the off season to get the pronunciation right. But
Hmm.
by the time opening day at Shea would I got I got the pronunciations right.
There you
That's
go.
the best
That's
way
the
to
name of
describe.
the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As
So
long as I got the pronunciations right by open,
exactly. And
but yeah,
hey, and this podcast could definitely help you with that too.
yep, exactly. This podcast
And
great. But I know it's going to be a very interesting off season, and I'm literally just looking at I'm looking at the SNY Twitter feed all the time during the winter off season, and literally watching sports night SNY, hoping to see something.
Yeah, it's true. Just hoping for some update. That's why, I keep looking at like John Heyman's Twitter and Ken Rosenthal and those type of guys just to see if anything breaks. Because I mean, that's the thing that stinks about the baseball offseason normally is that it usually drags on. I mean, we were just talking about Harper's free agency, and I don't think he signed until either the last day of February or it might have even been the first week of March. So that's how long they dragged on his free agency for. Same thing with Manny Machado. He was right there with him only a couple of weeks earlier than Harper. And it was unlike last offseason, which was really cool when they knew they had a deadline of December 1st and 2nd because the owners were going to lock them out and all that crap that happened last offseason. So we got a lot of free agent signings because there was a real deadline. You know, maybe baseball should think about doing something like that where there's a free agent deadline or an incentive or something like that because that was a lot of fun last year.
Yeah, that was almost a lot of fun because it was that uncertainty we were gonna have a season last year.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about free agent signing wise. Yeah, it was more like the NBA or the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty neat. But yeah, I did hear that a lot of players, including Jacob deGrom and Brandon Nimmo, and I think Aaron Judge even stated this, that they want to do everything to make sure that they have this all wrapped. They have their free agency signing, whatever period between now and when they've signed with the team, but in time for spring training. Like they don't want
Well,
to play,
yeah.
especially the fact that the amount of time it takes to get ready for the season, it just delays the whole process. I mean, a player like deGrom, I think, for all intents and purposes, a pitcher like that, he wants to sign with the team during the off season, so you can just go and head to a spring training site. Like hopefully, hopefully he'll be re-signing with the Mets. Like as soon as he signs that contract, the press conference and everything, the press conference in the press room at Citi Field. Then hopefully he'll board the next plane to Port St. Lucie and get on the horn and get ready for the season, because it's a bit of a lengthy, tumultuous process that has to be done. That's done for a reason when it comes to getting ready for the season. And I think deGrom would benefit from just having a normal, being able to get ready for the season and not have that coming back from an injury most of the season.
Oh yeah, and you have to remember too that deGrom is from Florida too, and he lives in Florida still. So he has a house in Florida, and spring training site down in Florida that he's familiar with, and that he's comfortable with. And I know he's from more northern Florida than the Mets are, but still, that I'm pretty sure that works in the Mets' favor too. And I think that the fact of the matter is that deGrom, the only team that it makes sense to pay him that much money is the Mets. You know, any other team, if you pay a guy like deGrom that money and it blows up in your face, you look so bad. But for the Mets, it's kind of like the David Wright contract, where, yeah, if you look at it on paper, that David Wright contract didn't work out for the Mets. They signed it in 2012, 6 years, 138 million. And how much of that contract did he play? I mean, let's face it, he missed time pretty much every year after that. And but still, that was a worthwhile contract because David Wright was the face of the franchise, and he was worth keeping around. And it's the same thing now. And it doesn't hurt the Mets as much as it did back then. When the Wilpons were owners, one bad contract, boom, now you're screwed. You can't sign anybody for a couple of years. You have to wait for that contract to go away or at least be minimized. Now that's not the case. We have Steve Cohen. So if you sign somebody to a bad contract, deGrom gets hurt, big deal. Sign somebody else to cover it up. The old Yankees method, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people got to remember, these contracts aren't exact science. It's hit or miss. Yeah, it could go
Yep.
bad. But also a possibility. It's 50-50. It could go well. And I just really think you don't want to risk that it it ends up not working in a favor and a guy played well, because it's a hit or miss. And aside from as long as any crazy injuries happens, deGrom seems to always pitch well.
Yeah, yeah, he does.
and
You're right.
he's just it's just on another level.
He's just one of those guys, man, and he's a face of the Mets kind of guy. So that's why they have to keep him around. And hey, that's the biggest thing this offseason right now. And hopefully we're starting to see a little light at the end of that tunnel. But we're also starting to come to the end of that tunnel right now as we're just about to close this thing out and get out of here. Dan, before we get out of here, do you have any plugs for yourself?
Sure, my Twitter account Bobo103NYC, Instagram Bobo718DK, and also on YouTube Daniel Kurlan. Also, I believe I got an upcoming appearance on the Davy Max Sports program coming up, the next episode. So you're gonna
Oh,
get this
nice.
Davy Max Sports program, and I feel like this one's gonna be this one. I don't want to spoil any surprises, but I've been contacted by the people at the Davy Max Sports program, and it looks like it's gonna. I feel like this one's gonna be a real enjoyable show. Like I feel perfect for a show like for a Eastside Dave Thanksgiving special. From what I heard, from what I've been hearing contacts from Dave and his and the people that put together his little show that he does now. I hear
Wow.
it seems like it's gonna be a fun episode. That's all I want to say. It hasn't, of course, if you're watching, it probably hasn't happened yet. It might have already premiered, but I just know going into it from what I've been hearing, it looks like it's going to be a fun one.
Very cool, man. Well, have a fun appearance, and if you're watching now, make sure, and it hasn't come out yet, even if it has, make sure to check out the Eastside Dave, the Davy Max Sports program, as this, you're going to be on it on Monday night, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it'll be live on YouTube Monday night. So check that out. And yeah, so thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to check me out, you can check me out at my last name, Cramer NY on Twitter. Check out our Twitter account, bsith_podcast on Twitter. Also, check us out on Best Seat in the House podcast on Instagram. So thank you once again, everybody, for checking out this special bonus episode of Best Seat in the House podcast. And I'm Rob Cramer. This is my co-host Daniel Bobo Kurlan. We'll catch you next week on Best Seat in the House podcast.